gonna teach if you can teach yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna reach if you can reach yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna see if you can see yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna be if you can be yourself? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Village Voices podcast. I'm your host, DJ, and I know I just always say this, but I have a special one here today. And not just any special one, but literally family. This person I would have seen growing up all their life. I would have seen their stages of living in Trinidad to now living in two other Caribbean islands and living abroad right now, living his dream for what he wanted to achieve for his life. And, it's just a lot of good vibes and energy to see your family achieving their goals and living their life on their own terms. So, ladies and gentlemen, bringing to the platform, I am very happy to introduce my brother, Aaron Acosta. Aaron, is he seen, brother?
I good. Well, I know it's morning by me, so I would say good morning. I know it might be night by you, so
Yeah, it's about
good night.
after 9 over by me right now. But, bro, tell the people first things first before we get into your life. Where are you right now in the world, bro?
I am currently in St. Kitts, to be more specific, Batstier, as they will say it.
How long you've been in St. Kitts now?
4 months now, after being in Guyana for 4 years. I'm here
So
4 months.
you're almost 5 years living abroad.
Yes, June 15th actually made it 5 years. Yeah.
Bro, my last visit to Trinidad was mostly for a big event that was taking place. Was your wedding. You just get
Yes.
married in December last year. First of all, publicly, congratulations. But it's one
Thank
thing when your younger brother getting married before you. It does really say something. Not that the family was surprised, but you just celebrated this very historic milestone with others to come in the next year or two. I am very proud of you and where you have come in your life, what you've done, what you've achieved, and only it was fair that you on this podcast with us. So Aaron, take us back. Growing up in the Acosta home. Where Aaron fit in and all of this? Aaron, who is your vibes growing up at home?
Well, I was a middle child, so I suffer from middle child syndrome, you would say. Whereas I wouldn't say you had to fight for what you wanted, but you had to fight for what you wanted. I would say, for lack of a better term. Growing up was good. I mean, growing up with you was a vibe, Obviously, as brothers, you will have your ups and downs, and you'll always
Of
have
course.
fights and quarrels and squabbles and stuff like that. But all of that would have benefited, in terms of how you interact with people, and actually having a younger sister as well too. A lot of people don't know what that interaction is like, how it goes from being watched over and then being able to watch over somebody as well. So it was interesting. Those days were very interesting. It was always fun. It was, you had your heavy moments and you have your heavy hitters, but other than that, it was always laughter. It was always good energy. It was always our vibes. Friends would have come in and they would have seen that togetherness that we had. And a lot of people looking back on it now, a lot of people really enjoyed spending time with us and seeing, how close we are as a family. And even people that come in, they realize like, like all the dynamics are like everybody different, but when it comes together, everybody vibes and everybody is hold the same head regardless. Good vibes growing up all the way.
Good memories as well.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were able to have two parents together who we saw deal with each other, love each other, and things like that. So, for you, what was your role as the middle child? How did it affect you? Because you say you had to fight for everything. What you mean by that? I'm really curious.
You know, the firstborn is always the loved, and the son is the eyeball,
So you're saying I was the
Firstborn,
eyeball?
yeah, you use the eyeball. So you getting what it is you want, You never used to get. I mean, you would have get in trouble, yeah, but it used to go over everybody's head.
You think so?
And then Sarah now see, well, Sarah is the princess. She's the princess. So wherever Sarah wanted, Sarah would have gotten She didn't have to necessarily work too hard for it. Probably now she has to. Um, for me, it would have been a case. I think I was the unfortunate one in situations. I think mommy would have mentioned in the wedding where she would have had to miss out key components in my life just due to unfortunate circumstances. And yeah, I mean, it's nothing on her part, but that was just life. Life was just, we weren't in control of anything at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I had to organize certain things. I mean, started working when I was 17, started getting my own at 17. So it's like that's how it always felt. Like, I had to make sure I get my own. I had to make sure and I see about myself, well. But not in a way where I felt alone or abandoned or anything like that. But I just knew that, hey, you have to see about yourself. It have other things around you happening. Make sure you see about yourself.
Wow, that the song real familiar to the first episode when I started saying, that I feel like I had to always look out for me as well. So, I feel like was one thing in our family, we always had this self-dependence, even though we could come together as a unit. So, in this stage of figuring out what you want to do, you would have gone to QRC. Did you know from a young age what you wanted to do, or were you just going with the flow and see what would happen?
Oh no, like I knew what I wanted to do, and that came from daddy because I mean, daddy was the one always in the house cooking. Mommy never used to cook, right? Mommy didn't like cooking. That was daddy thing. Daddy used to cook, and I mean, the man win competitions and all kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for me, I always used to watch that, and I remember having a conversation with him, and I told him, I say, one day I'll be better than you in cooking.
Wow.
One day, I will be better than you in cooking. The first thing I ever cooked was curry chicken. And after that, the man just stopped cooking. He stopped, he say he not making curry no more because my curry tastes better than his own. And I think that is what kind of forged the path for me to become a chef because the person that I was looking up to was daddy, and I was just like, no, I need to be better than you where this is concerned. So
So
that
what,
is
around
that,
what
that is,
age you did what around what age you did know this, or you did figure out this, or you get this skill curry? What age you looking at here?
hmm, I would say around 12, 13, honestly, heading into secondary school. Yeah, that's when I think that's what started to forge the paths, and yeah, that's when I realized I can make a real bad curry. And I just take it from there. Even when I cook curry for people now and in different countries, like even in Guyana, Guyana has their own creating, doing their quote unquote chicken curry. But anytime I would have cooked curry for them, there was no competition, honestly.
So what was your path or journey to basically going on this culinary journey? Because obviously you don't reach the head of kitchen overnight. I vividly remember, and this is something we'll talk later about, vividly remember seeing the long hours that you'd be putting in when you started in the beginning. So, what was your journey to get to that first stage of going through your hotel school? And, hotel school is no longer a thing from what I
Yeah.
understand. So, even people who didn't know about this, tell them about this particular school, tell them what you had to do, how did you get in, and then we go from there.
So you would have applied online, they would have looked at your C6 scores and everything like that, and they would have run you through preliminary schooling as well too. So you would go, they will see where you at, what level you're at, and once you pass and everything, then you're on board. I think during that period, I was doing it part time because I was also working as well too, and my classes would have typically been Monday to Sunday. During the week would have been 7 till 11, and that would have been like theory. And then practical was always Saturday, Sunday, and that would have been like 6 or 7 in the morning and finish like 5 in the afternoon. And that's while I was still working. I always had the weekend off because of the job that I was doing at that point in
So
time.
what job were you working at this point?
In the beginning, it was Linda's Bakery.
I
That was my
forget your Linda's journey, but
first initial job. So I was doing the bakery in the morning and
I
then
remember
school in the
that
night.
boy.
So
Bring
that
back
was
memories, there, boy.
yeah, yeah. So that was a remote to Shagaramas every day. So reaching home 12, sometimes 1 o'clock in the morning. That kind of instilled in me the long hours from the get go. And then the weekends would have just been 8 hour classes, but still in a practical setting, doing practical food, learning how to do all your knife cuts, learning how to fillet a fish, learning how to separate a yolk from a white, and being able to make mayo from scratch. Hotel school really set the foundation. I mean, I wish that they could bring it back. It set the foundation for that Italian and French cuisine or French knowledge. And then yeah, it teaches you some local basics as well too. You learn how to get very technical plating, learning how to do garnishes and stuff like that. It was a really really nice institution, honestly. Very very nice. Unfortunately, they are no longer around, but very nice and informative institution.
So you mentioned this 4 month break that you would have taken. At which point in your schooling career did you take this break, and where did you go and why? What was happening at that point?
So what happened is that I think this was around I think this was after Daddy passed, and
Okay, so this
um,
daddy passing was one
yeah,
of the catalysts.
yeah,
So
it was within that same year actually,
in
and
2015.
yeah, so in 2015, I think what kind of sparked it for me was because I mean, I would say this openly, like I gave up on hotel school after a while because of just how certain things happened in terms of when I was doing the internship. I think it was the same day of the funeral, and I went with Uncle Steve, our next history maker, to drop it off. They gave clear instructions, yes, not to drop it off to the booth, but I mean, I was up already. I think Kian and Shakil came and spent the night before the funeral, and I was up. I was trying to finish this booklet to hand, and I mean, it was 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody was there. I had no choice but to drop it off by the security officer, and they didn't accept it. And even though they said that they would have, been lenient with the situation because of the fact that I had a funeral to go to, they didn't accept it. So I was just like, man, that kind of threw me off a bit. And, I was going through the motions after the funeral and everything, and I was in work, and I was just like, man, I need a break. I took a 4.5 month break, and I went to Atlanta, by my best friend, and I I I I relaxed. I relaxed. I chilled. I was fortunate enough to, somebody was ensuring that I had funds. That it was same Uncle Steve again, history maker, and yeah, I was just trying to recollect myself, trying to just bring myself back, and it was a time needed, honestly, just to be away, just to recoup.
At this point, when you're away, are you planning, all right, I'm going back to hotel school to finish this, or what is your thought process like while you're chilling?
I had absolutely no plan, to be quite honest, and I think that is where God kind of he came in, and he started to forge certain things for me. So even when I came back, the plan was to go back, but that just never happened. And I think what I did is that I started to pick up jobs. I came back for When I came back, I was back for 2 weeks. I was babysitting my nephew, sorry, my little cousin, for 2 weeks, and I was just like, man, I need to go back and work. I don't like being at home, and that was never me to like be out of a job and stuff like that. And when I came back, I think I got a job in Mycon at that point in time.
So I remember my
Um,
Condays.
yeah, I was.
You was the first, or I was. Who was working there first? I think you know.
But yeah, it was me.
I think you.
Yeah, I came back. No, sorry. My con was before I left. No, yeah, I'm telling you the wrong thing. My con was before I left my con to go on the break for the 4.5 months. When I came back, I went to there was this company in Chamflair. They do distributions and stuff. I don't remember the name. I think they closed down now. But they have a cafe. They had a cafeteria, Unicoma. I was in Unicoma, and they had a cafeteria there, and I was put on to the person I was in charge, and I was underneath a chef that went through hotel school and everything like that. He and we bonded and we shared, experiences. And from there, I was there for like 4 months because I was cooking for the staff in the night. Sometimes have to come back in the morning. It was a cafeteria basically, and did that for 4 months, and then I moved on because that was just local food. I wanted something more. I wanted to do more, and after that, I came across this Italian restaurant that was now opening up and they were now hiring people, and I applied and I got through. I think
Was the
La
one on the
Locanda.
avenue?
Yeah,
The
the
one
one
on
on
the
the avenue.
avenue. I remember that.
So
And around this time, this is what you remember this year, bro?
this would have been 2017 or 2016 or 2017. I can't really remember which year it was.
Because
But yeah,
it really takes me back to that moment when I took the leave of absence after Daddy died. Was that around the same time that you were at Mycon, or you were at Mycon after?
Mycon was before that. Daddy passed when I was in Mycon. You were working on the avenue for the digital place, if
The
I'm not
digital,
mistaken.
is that the graphic designing place?
Yeah,
Because I remember I worked somewhere for like 2 or 3 months. I don't even
yeah,
remember, but I remember I bust out
yeah.
there real quick. Be
You
right.
done
So
with
like
that?
it kind of coming back to me now. So now in 2017, and I think around this time, I am seeing you working like a dog, like real
Yeah.
hours and like real hours, like mad hours. And I remember at this time, I think at this time I breezing through. I don't even remember what I was doing, but I breezing through life. But I remember around that time, that was when something hit me in my head where I was saying, you know what, bro, like this man has worked so hard. Like, it would be so cool if one day I could just open up a restaurant and just give it to
Hmm.
you and
Oh,
just be like, here, bro. Well, let's not pretend like I didn't already
yeah.
do what I said I was going to do. And it didn't work out. It didn't work out. But, with what came in the future, that was always with you in mind, where I was like, all right, cool. Like, I know I like business. I don't like F&B. I mean, and
Mm-hmm.
owning that restaurant did show me like, oh gosh, boy. But I was like, if this guy is skilled in like operations and running something from the restaurant side, like it would be such a great partnership, where I give you that. So that was the first time when it ever came into my mind where I was like, ways boy, like one of these days I'm hoping to open another restaurant for you. Because mom
Yeah.
used to always tell me, you always get it easy, you really ain't hard. I was like, get what? I had to go figure out my own scenes, like, but mommy would always say, you will just get through. You could walk into a room and get through. Aaron go out and walk in and he go out and work his butt off. So
Yeah.
little things like that I remember was being spoken about at that point in time. So this jump now from 2017, we enter in 2018 now. Where are you working now in 2018? Because this is where now your life gets a shift based on my decision. So where are you now in the early 2018 of your life now?
Early 2018, I was still at La Locanda because I did a year and a half there because the restaurant didn't last so long. While I was there, I mean, I progressed. I progressed during that time period.
What are you doing at La Locanda at this point? What is your position
So
in
I
the
was the
industry?
pizza chef when it
I
is I started.
remember, yeah.
I didn't know how to make pizzas, and certain things in life just happen that it pushes you. And I remember one day, and I always tell like the chefs that I'm around now, I always tell this story. The assistant general manager, she came to me because I was there testing out, making sure the pizzas was right. And the pizza literally came out the shape of Africa, and I kid you not, it looked just like Africa. And she said to her son, which was the general manager, that if he doesn't get it right by tomorrow, then he cannot work here. And I was like, nah, I'm not going through that. So I went home, I went on YouTube, I went do different researches, different ways to make pizza, how you could get it the shape you want it. And man, let me tell you, the day after I come, I was real bad. Nobody could have touched me when it came to making pizza. I was real bad. It was like they saw a shift and they didn't understand like where it came from. But I was making pizza like I going crazy. I think like most pizza I ever made on a shift. Somebody came and they had a party and they ordered 12 pizzas. And it's not like Pizza Hut where you done get those done make out and thing and everything. No.
Yeah, you had
You
to
had
get
to
everything
roll
from
out your
scratch.
doughs. Yeah, you had to roll out your doughs. Every dough was 227 grams, so that is 8 ounces of dough. You there playing with right through. And I decided at that point in time that I am not going to allow anybody to tell me that I cannot at that point in time. I said, anytime a challenge comes at me, I will do my best to make sure that I don't allow anybody to bring me down. And yeah, at that point in time, I was the boss. I was doing pizzas day in day out. The hours of the restaurant. I nobody couldn't touch me. It reached a point where I have professional photographs of me making pizza. And it was crazy. And at that point, that is when I started to realize, yo, I am good at what I'm doing. I am good at this craft. I went on another interview. There was this other Italian restaurant that was opening up in Chaguanas, and they wanted a pizza chef, and I was like, man, that is easy work. I doing this already. You could get that. I didn't take the job because at that point in time when I actually was leaving Alukanda, and the owner of the franchise came to me, and I think it was 2 days before I left, he gave me the sous chef position in the restaurant. So that was my first taste of management, right? I was overseeing the inventory, the stock, and I was delegating. I had people that I had to delegate to, and that was my first encounter with a managerial role. And for people that know me, really and truly know me, they know people know me. I'm very soft. I'm very soft spoken, very kind. I'm not the typical chef that you would see cussing, carrying on, and all these things or whatever. But as the years progressed, I mean that kind of changed. In the sense where I found my own voice and I found myself in the kitchen and understood the importance of having people underneath you and the direction that you need to carry them in. So after La Locanda, when that closed down, I went to Prime, and that is where I met one of my mentors. His name is Chef Devon Joseph, and he was one of the persons that trained me during my internship. Now it has a backstory to that as well too. Whereas he used to be working Linda's, he and Daddy was good friends. They knew each other and stuff as well too. So him seeing me back again was like, yo, like I honestly I didn't even do an interview to be quite honest. He saw me, he's like, Acosta son. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you start working tomorrow. Because he already knew what I was capable of from since in hotel school, since doing the internship. He already knew. And I didn't let him down when I started there. I think that is where more of the understanding the late nights came in because I would have been reaching home 2 o'clock in the morning and then you kind of understood the lifestyle of a chef and how chaotic it is, and how you just have no choice but to, you just find yourself by a bar in the night after it's closed. That is just the lifestyle of a chef, and from there, it was just progression from there. And I think
So,
the progression hasn't stopped as yet.
well, boy, I feel like you skipped so much years in this whole process there because, one thing that I noticed, after Daddy dying was like the roles and shifts of responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, when Daddy would have first passed, it would have come straight down to me. I don't think at that time you weren't driving, Sarah wasn't
No.
driving, mommy never driving. So, like I had to do all the heavy lifting in terms of the movement, the responsibilities of getting everyone from place to place. But then in 2018, in November, I bust
Mm-hmm.
out.
Yeah.
And now I am making this decision for, like, man, like I need to do this for me. Let me go and get my experience. But now, you being the second child, you almost now taking on, or not taking on. I have now unofficially passed this torch over to you. Tell me about that transition for you building your career still, having now to have these responsibilities fall on you and actually going through it.
That transition was, I wouldn't say it was difficult. We were happy for you. We were happy for you going and everything. And that was, I think that was the year before COVID, if I'm not mistaken, right? That was, yeah,
Well,
it was 28.
November 2018, and so yeah, January we would have got the whole of
Yeah,
2019. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
right.
then COVID the year after.
Right. So when you left, I think at that point in time, I was um the kitchen manager for a restaurant that was now opening in Trinity. Beer Vibes. I think you left after it. You left. You left before I transitioned over there because,
Yeah, because
right, I
it
was
doesn't ring a
still,
bell to me.
yeah, I was still in prime when you left, and right. So I was still working in Port of Spain at that point in time. So when you left, it was a case of, so now everything that you were doing, I now have to make sure I do. I have to make sure, and if mommy needs to get dropped out to the bus route, 6 o'clock in the morning, that I'm awake to do it. If she has to do the grocery run on the Saturday, I need to make sure that I'm awake for that as well too. And then the in betweens, the Sunday morning as well to going to church. I'll make sure that I'm awake for that. The random drop offs for Sarah and everything like that. I think I understood where your I wanna say it in a very nice way,
Oh gosh.
where the frustration of the responsibility came from, right? And I mean, I using frustration for lack of a better word, but you still wanted to have, not when I mean you, I mean both you and I in the different times, we still wanted to have our life and still wanted to have the responsibility of making sure mommy is okay, make sure that Sarah is okay, make sure that they had to go where they had to go. And yeah, I mean, after a while, it became frustrating because it's like, you're trying to do your own thing and then, you're getting a taste of responsibility, something you didn't ask for, but you just have to, with just because one, the world has created this idea of what a man should do and and all the responsibilities that you have to take up. So I understood after where you came, where you were coming from,
Yeah.
and I think Sarah now understands where
Mhm.
we both were coming from, right? So it was just a trickling effect, but I mean, I was still working, I was still doing my thing. After that in 2019, I went on, assisted in opening a restaurant. I was the kitchen manager there, so it was more responsibilities. I think I had less time at home and more time in the kitchen just because of how much responsibilities I had. So it was like I was there, but I wasn't there.
What did you learn about yourself most during this period of like having this responsibility on you now and you still progressing in your achievements or trying to balance everything? What did you learn at that moment?
I learned resilience at that point in time just because, I mean, I was doing something unconventional to a lot of people as well too because I was in a long distance relationship at that point in time too.
Wow.
So
Boy, I will never forget those moments, Aaron. I don't know to this day, boy, how you do that. But we will
yeah,
get to that. We will
yeah,
get to that.
that will come along after. So it was the long distance relationship was the responsibility of taking care of mommy and Sarah and also splitting myself to ensure that our restaurant, survives. I would have had hours where, like, I would have reached home 12 o'clock and somebody needs to be in there at 4 o'clock. And just because I was living closer than everybody, I was the one delegated, quote unquote, to be responsible for opening the place. So 4 o'clock in the morning, you have to go now, open the restaurant. Then you come back home. 6 o'clock, you had to carry mommy out, out the road. Then you come back home. You're trying to sleep. And then now, you're on the phone because you have to now allow yourself, you have to create that time for that person that you're interested in. So I learned resilience. It wasn't easy doing it the way that I did, but yeah, I learned resilience.
And bro, like that resilience is the one thing that keeps you strong during the low moments. Like we've all had those moments and experiences. But clearly at this point, something is happening. Something is happening
Yeah.
within you where you are literally putting in the time and the hours. Like I know I see you work real hard, and then boom, this opportunity comes up when it comes to potentially migrating. Tell us that story of or that moment when you started to see the shift in being able to move.
So the shift came with me actually leaving the previous job because I was, things wasn't going on, well with me, and I reached to the point where I was like, I need to leave. I need to leave. Bare vibes. I need to leave, and I did
Was it
that.
like internal conflict within the
Yeah,
workplace or personal
and it
conflict
was
with
it was
yourself?
internal. It was really really internal. It was still like we were just coming out of being locked down for so long. I mean, we were still locked down because Trinidad took the longer extension opposed to everybody else. And yeah, I reached the point where I was just like, nah, like I need out. I
So
need
in
to
2020
leave.
now.
Yeah, so 2020, I left the company and then I went back to the warehouse for like 2 weeks. I got a phone call from
So
my
the warehouse? What warehouse?
Mycon. Went back to Mycon, yeah.
Okay, okay, right,
I went
right.
back to Mycon for 2 weeks. While I was there, I got a call, and this is where the opportunity came, where I got a call from my boss's wife, and she wanted me to take up the opportunity to go to Guyana because they had a Hard Rock Café there. And I told her, yeah, I'm down for it. I have no problem. I will go. Went through the
Was
process because
traveling something that you wanted to do around this time, or was it something you ever thought about living abroad, moving abroad?
no, that was not something that was on my mind at that point in time. I was trying to build my own thing. And, I started my own company at that point in time.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, this was during lockdown, and I
Come
was
tell the
just
people about it, man. Don't just try to bring it down so.
and when I actually look back at all these things, like I was doing a lot, to be quite honest. When I actually look back,
Tell your story, man. What do you mean?
so I did start a company. It's called TSK, which is called the Signature Kitchen, and I was doing the in-house catering for people during COVID. The company was I was doing it with friends and family first. People were very interested in it, and they wanted the service. They knew me. They knew the food that I would normally put out and everything like that. Getting clients wasn't difficult. It didn't last too long because of the fact that I had I got the opportunity to leave Guyana. So I think the business was open for like 4 months, and I was still trying to juggle a restaurant, running my own business, and still have that family life. At that point in time, I was single, so I didn't necessarily have the weight of a relationship on me. And I'm not saying weight as a bad thing, but being in a relationship adds weight to
Wait.
you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was free. I wasn't in a relationship. I had more time. I had time to put into to work. I had time to put into my own business, and then I got the call for Guyana. And yeah, I did have
What is that feeling? What is that feeling like? Like you just left a job with confidence. That's one thing I would always say about you. Like you as a man never used to stick if you had a boss. If you had a boss
yeah,
and you had to leave, you
I
out.
gone.
You
I
gone.
gone.
But like having to go back to Micon, like it obviously would have some kind of effect on you, right? Because now you're feeling
Yeah.
like you've taken a step back. So, oh, I don't know. How does it feel like during that point?
At that point in time, it was solely for the money because
Right,
they brought me back on a supervisor level, and they were paying me good. So it was
right.
strictly about the money at that
The
point
money.
in time.
And then you get this call. So,
Then I get this call.
what is this feeling like? And getting that call is not just they didn't call anybody else.
No,
They called you. So,
yeah,
why do you think you were chosen for this phone call by your boss's wife?
yeah, yeah. I think what happened is that they saw my potential. They saw what I could do,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they always think 10 steps ahead, right? I was just looking at it as here and now, but they had a plan down the road, and they saw the potential. They saw, my ability and everything like that. So, me leaving to them was a shock because they had this plan set out for me. So they just kind of reignited the plan, and they called me, and it was just interesting because I think months before that, mommy was actually in Guyana. Mommy was in Guyana for 6 months actually.
I remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So I mean, when you're in your own country, you don't think about any other country besides the country that you in. And I never thought about Guyana. Guyana was never on the map for me. Mommy came back from her 6 months and she said, Aaron, you would like Guyana. Guyana is a nice place for you. But I was like, Guyana? I was like, nah, nothing about that. And then months down the road to get a phone call saying, Aaron, we need you in Guyana. And mommy was like, you see, she was like, don't worry, you're going to enjoy it. Yeah, and that was that. And I was priming up myself to go Guyana.
So, what are you going to Guyana to do now? What is the opportunity presented to you?
So the opportunity was initially for me to be the kitchen manager or the executive chef for the Hard Rock there. Obviously, with Hard Rock having its standards and stuff like that, you have to go through all the notions, you have to go through all the different departments before you can even reach to that level. And that by itself, which I will get into, is a story within itself because when I got there, listen, Guyana by itself, I mean, I could talk about it on different levels in terms of the culture of Guyana and also working in Guyana.
Tell us
Um,
about it all, bro.
the culture of Guyana is totally different to Trinidad, and especially with the driving. Driving in
Crazy.
Guyana, and it is crazy. Listen, I love Guyana. I have made a lot of good friends there, and I will never speak ill about Guyana. But the fact is, the driving is crazy in Guyana.
Like, how crazy we talking? Give me a visual example.
So I come off the plane. I was picked
Not
up
off the
by
plane.
and this is literally my first hour in Guyana. Not I can't even say my first day, my first hour in Guyana. Came off the plane, was picked up, with the company vehicle and everything like that, and we're heading down to Mary. To Mary is where the big airport is, so we're heading down. That is East Bank. Yes, East Bank. And I kid you not, within the first hour of that drive, because it is like almost like a 2 hour drive, within that first hour, I see a man done right and an next man right. And them like normal. He drive off and he go on the next way and nobody ain't call police, nobody ain't say, well, hey, your
That's
boss,
a
man.
regular
That is
Sunday.
a regular thing. That is a regular thing. And I was like, nah. I say I in cowboy town. I say this is madness, right? So
I mean, for the people who don't know, Guyana is very close to Trinidad.
yeah.
Guyana is in the Southern America continent, but it's considered a Caribbean country, which is very weird because, you know,
And that is also the only not Caribbean speaking, English speaking country in South
in
America.
South America. So it's a very interesting place that you end up. Now you are seeing like from the culture, you're looking at the driving. Do you see any similarities in the culture with like Trinidad? Like what do we share and what do we differ with? Besides the argument between curry chicken and chicken curry.
And chicken curry. Yeah. Besides that, the cultural beliefs are very similar, right? I think Trinidad kind of lost its way along the lines in terms of honing on to their religious beliefs and their cultural beliefs, but Guyana was, at least the time that I was there, they stuck to it. So and is just different to see that in this day and age with the modern technology and stuff, people still go back to their roots. Now, Guyana is diverse in terms of they have Africans, they have Indians, they have Amerindians, right? So every culture still they still do their same practices. The Amerindians, when they are in their village and stuff, they still do their dances. They still do horseback riding, like if they're cowboys and stuff, they still drink their they I think if I remember the name is called Payari, which is just like a cassava rum or cassava wine, sorry. So they still practice this stuff. The Indian community still practice, having to, like when you're getting married, the husband has to go find the wife and this and that. They still practice their stuff. So that was something that I give props to them. And like even when it's around Diwali and stuff, they will do floats and they will, express their cultures. During Easter, you would see everybody go on the seawall, they will be flying kites. Is really interesting to see that they hold on to their culture so much, whereas Trinidadians, we adapt to other people's cultures. We take their cultures and we make it our own.
Do you have an intuition as to why you think that was happening in Guyana?
I've asked myself the question and I've also seen it because they, like, at that point in time, Guyana wasn't developed to where it is now. So I would say it's not like people were very strict where their religious beliefs and cultural beliefs came from. At that point in time when I was there, I used to hear stories that, an Indian can marry a black. There was still some sort of racial differences and stuff. And people stuck to it. People really, really stuck to it. I think now as they are developing, you're seeing more of a intermingle and stuff like that. So I think with development, or I would say because they didn't have the development at that point in time, you had no choice but to stick to stick to what you know, stick to your culture, stick to your roots, stick to the way that you were brought up. But now with the development, obviously there's going to be a shift because of the different amount of people that coming into the country, a lot of expats, a lot of people from Dubai, a lot of people from Ukraine, Germany. So now you have more of a mixture. So
What is
people,
causing this influx? Is it the oil?
yeah, because of the oil. And when I mean like they have so much oil, more than Trinidad did. Probably they probably could reach the level that Venezuela is at. But it's crazy the amount of oil deposits that they have right now, and it is going to grow. I think they are looking to hit within the next 5 years 22 FPSOs, which are the oil ships, and it's crazy how the country has developed within a 4 year period that I was there. I saw it when it wasn't anything, and I'm seeing it, and I left it being so much more.
So how does this experience now shape you as a person? Because you next door to home, eh? You know
Yeah,
your culture, but now you in this area that it seems like you've taken a step back in
in
development and
time,
you're in
back in
time
time. Yeah.
you're seeing something more from like a realistic like point of view at this point. So what lessons are you learning now about yourself? Like you're in this new country, you're in this new job, and obviously there's this part now of having to manage over people who are locals, and you're
Yeah,
from Trinidad, so you have a difference in culture. How are all these things tying into Aaron in this point in time?
it's just being able to, like, what I learned was being open to change, right? I mean, I was never a stickler. I was never a straight guided person, or being straight like I'm Trini and that is it, and that is the only thing that I know.
Awesome.
So for me, it was interesting, one, to see another culture, and two, being able to adapt to the culture. Because I mean, I had some difficulties in the beginning because there's like where does Trini come from? The feel Trini people feel that they're better than Guyanese
Tell us
and
about
stuff.
that because I know that this is something that we hear about with islands having these perceptions of other islands. So, what was the perception that did you experience that they had on Trinis?
Well, one that we feel that we better than everybody else, right? And
I feel like this is a custom thing all over the Caribbean when it comes to
yeah, yeah,
Trini.
yeah. I actually want to learn it. So I took a step back and at a point in time, I stopped mentioning Trinidad. I stopped mentioning, well, well, they don't have this over here, but we have this in Trinidad. I took a step back because I realized that that was not the way to deal with it. That was not the way to integrate yourself with a community or to integrate yourself with the people. And, I started gaining a Guyanese accent. Some people in Trinidad told me that my Trinidad passport was revoked, and I'm no longer a Trini. I live in any 590.
Aaron, give me your best Guyanese accent if you could, bro. Let me hear what it mean when you say that. Tell me some.
So well, it comes and goes. I'll be like everybody knows now. Like I say body a lot. Body is a Guyanese thing. So you'll be like, yeah, buddy, like what's going on, Like we go drink 2 bangs now, boy, buddy. Like like go and like ball. You understand? So it started to come on like when I used to like I would speak to mommy, I would speak to people in Trinidad, I'd be like, bro, like you sound like a guy. And yeah, so I developed that, and that was just because of the fact that I didn't want anybody to feel that I was entitled or I was better than them. And it wasn't about me bringing myself down to their level, but it was just being able to adapt and
To
meet
meet
them
them
at their level.
on their level, correct?
And a lot of like I learned a lot. Like I was eating 7 curries, I mean, out of a fig leaf, and I really and truly enjoy the cultural aspect of Guyana. I was living in East Coast, which is Region 4, and I would have gone down to Boobies, I would have gone down to New Amsterdam, I would have gone over the river, go down to certain places there. I didn't go Essequibo though, which I always wanted to. Just didn't have the time, with the restaurant and everything. But at that point in time, I mean, I found love. I let go of love, and then I found love again. It was just a very interesting period in my life. At that point in time, I don't know, like I had a yearning for a family. I had a yearning to be married. It reached to the point where I think I was going crazy because that was just like what I wanted. And it was just a lot of things that I realized about myself at that point in time. I think in Guyana, I found myself, like my true self, and that was because
Who
of
is this person?
so Aaron now, or the Aaron that I probably should have been in Trinidad, is now very much more outspoken. Right? I'm not as quiet as before. Still jovial, still like to have a good time, but I will tell you as it is, or tell you how I feel at that point in time. How you receive it, that is totally up to you. So that is where I am at, and I had to be that way because of Guyana, because you know, working with different people, you have to stand your ground. You have to be able to not allow them to get too close and take advantage of you. So I had to stand my ground with a lot of people, with a lot of bosses as well too. My own bosses, I had to stand my ground with, and that is where I started to develop, and I started to realize my true self in being able to just speak up, because sometimes, and it was something that mommy always used to tell me, that you would never know unless you ask a question, and that was
Exactly.
never me. I never liked to ask certain questions or stuff like that. But now, no, like that experience in Guyana has really changed me and changed that aspect. I'm probably more opinionated now than anything else, and I am a lot more stronger mentally. So because Guyana was hard, I had some really low days in Guyana because I was by myself, basically, in an unfamiliar place. And, I think the people that I met along the way helped shape me. I met a lot of chefs, I met a lot of locals, I met a lot of politicians. I used to serve the vice president, like he would come into the restaurant, I would cook his food and stuff like that. So I had a lot of opportunities to become my true self in Guyana. It was very interesting.
So you're in Guyana now, and at this point in life, apart from you feeling lonely, do you feel like you're thriving in your career, thriving like personally? You're feeling like you're thriving here.
Yes, I felt that way. Like professionally and personally. Because when I came to Guyana, I started in prep. I went through all the departments, prep, inventory, did a bit of admin, came on the line, learn the line, learn how to cook stuff Hard Rock way, and then we also had local menus, so I had to learn that as well too. So this is a trainee trying to learn to cook Guyanese food the way that they want it. And then also starting to get into our next managerial position because I became the supervisor, then came the assistant kitchen manager, and then came the kitchen manager. So it was just uphill progression.
So the
Uphill
kitchen manager,
progression.
after you reach there, what's next after kitchen manager above that level?
Well, you could call it two things. You could either call it executive chef or kitchen manager. When you reach to that level, unless it is like you're looking at a fine dining restaurant, I would say the only next thing is for you to be in charge of a fine dining restaurant. But when you reach to that level, it's just you have reached the ceiling, and that's just what it is.
So you are currently at this point where you have reached the ceiling in where you can go, unless you want to now go a step further.
Yeah.
So do you think now this is where your next opportunity comes from? So how long did you stay in Guyana being at the top of your game?
When I was there for a year at the top of my game, so I was the kitchen manager for a year, which would have been last year actually. And then my boss, he had certain plans, St. Kitts was opening up because they had plans to open a Hard Rock there. They have plans to open a restaurant in Barbados as well too, so which is more of a fine dining restaurant. So at that point in time, I had two options on the table. It was
Both
either
presented to you.
presented to me, so either St. Kitts or I think another chef came on board, and the decision was kind of made for us in terms of the skill set that we had because I was already 4 years into Hard Rock, and I went and I did the training, the MIT training and stuff for them. So
Where
I
is
was
this
already.
training taking place?
It was in Orlando in Universal Studios,
So
and
your company has sent you all expensive paid to go train to now open the Hard Rock in St. Kitts.
yes. Well, I
That
would say
feeling like, come on.
think that within itself has a bit of a story to it because everybody in Guyana that was on the managerial team got the opportunity to go to the training, and I was like, I had a bit of a self doubt because I was like, bro, like I have more restaurant experience than everybody else, and it's like, why am I not being offered the same opportunity? Why, which I wasn't like that was just my thought process, and then I
Yeah.
realized I was like, okay, plan is to now educate and create opportunities for the Guyanese, which I wasn't upset about because the country within itself was thriving. And but I felt that way. I felt like this was something that I should have gotten, and everybody else was getting it. And I said, you know what? After a day or two, I was just like, it is what it is. I say, whatever is for me. I always tell people this: what is due to Caesar will be Caesar,
Mm.
right? And I think God orchestrated things a certain way where I got it before I came here because I only did the training in February of this year, and I came here in March. So going there, it was like. I mean, we traveled many times before. It wasn't. Traveling was never an issue for us.
Yeah.
But it was just. It was nice for somebody to see your worth at that point in time, and give you an opportunity like that to allow you to now be a part of something bigger than yourself. So
Preach, brother. Preach, preach.
yeah. So at that point in time, to me, that is what it was. It was, an opportunity, not one that I probably, because I don't take advantage of things. Like, it was a good opportunity for me to now develop and to understand fully the hard rock culture because I didn't understand it fully. Yeah, I know how to cook and I know how to present something, but to actually understand the intricate parts of everything, the
What are some
history
of
of.
those things? What does that have to do with what you get to eat from a restaurant?
No, I mean, a lot of people wouldn't know, but like the prep time and the prep work that goes into having a final product is what a lot of people don't see, right? I mean, us as let's just say you and I, we are consumers, and we come and we want to come, sit down, eat 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and leave. A lot of people don't see the back end part of it, the work that goes into me producing a meal for you, right? A lot of people don't understand the hecticness and the chaos of a kitchen for me to be able to put something out for you, because a kitchen could go from being real peaceful to also like in a split second being at
Yeah.
war, and I don't think a lot of people actually value that or understand what chefs go like what they go through on a daily basis.
Well, boy, I
So
wouldn't want anybody quarreling before my food had to come out because that making me not want to go there. But as you say, these things has happened. So you're telling me sometimes I can
these
be again some bad energy coming out with my food.
I wouldn't say bad energy, right?
Yeah,
The energy
like
does translate, right? But a lot of people,
yeah.
the thing is, a lot of people don't see it. People will come into a restaurant and be like, "Oh, I'm waiting so long. This food and this is not up to standard." But again, there are so many factors that came into place, even while you was in a state of war, for you to be able to get this final product. And customers don't understand that because they are just not in the shoes of a
We're
chef.
consumers, Yeah.
Yeah,
We want
exactly.
we want it
We are
now.
just consumers.
We come for the
Yes.
experience. So in that case now you are thinking of all these things. Is this what they're training you or telling you about in these training conferences or the intricacies of their companies?
Yeah, so they will teach you how to deal with all these things, how to manage as well too. Um, Now with Hard Rock, because they have been around for 58 years, right? They opened in 1971, and they have been around for 58 years. They have right now like 178 outlets worldwide. So I mean they're doing something right, and their first branch is still open. And I mean if your first branch still open, then you're surely doing something right.
Yeah.
So they have developed a system that really and truly sets you up for success, right? And they will show it to you from the managerial level, from the line cook level, from the prep level, from the bartender level, from even the retail level. And they will just show you in every department how you could be successful. If it is you just follow things, the way that they show it to you, or the way that they have been doing it for 58 years, you'll be all right.
So you get this training. Now you are tasked with opening a restaurant. Bro, what does it mean to go actually open a restaurant? What do you have to do?
You have to be mentally, physically strong. That's one. Next thing, like a lot of things that people take for granted is supplies. Having the right supplies, making sure you could get the supply that you need. And it goes from food to a spoon. Sometimes you think, yeah, to a spoon. Sometimes you might think, okay, yeah, I just need 72 spoons, that would be good. But then now you need to study, okay, your total covers is 280. 72 spoons is not going to be enough. So is understanding the logistics behind the opening and closing, but that is something that you need to do 2, 3 months in advance, or even 4 months in advance, because you need to go in with the idea of this place is going to be busy. Now, is one of two things. You could start off with a space that is already there, and you could take which both ways a headache. You could take the headache of trying to fix something that was already there, or you could accept the headache of building it from ground up. Right now, having to remodel a place is extremely tiring and hectic. Now, this place that we got, it was filled with grease. Things was like what it is now to what it was before is a complete makeover. And the thing is, you have to be willing to put in the work. You have to be willing to, like for somebody to come and tell you, hey, that not looking good, even though you have something in your head, and be able to be like, you know what, I understand what you're saying, and I could see the direction that you're going, so you must have foresight as well too.
How big is the team working on this? How big of a team do we have working together?
It was 5 people. So it was me. I was handling the kitchen. There was the general manager. who was handling, the Hard Rock side, making sure we get things, and because there's a
Oh,
whole long list that Hard Rock will give you before you open that you need to make sure and have these things. And then there's the project manager, then there's the director who is here locally, and then there's another person that will then now outsource all our equipment if we need additional stuff. So you have somebody dealing with in logistics with that as well too. Now, mind you, with Hard Rock, it has to be outfitted to their specification, right? So it's not say, well, we could just put a chair there. No, it's not a case like that. They will tell you, okay, the chair needs to be here, the chair needs to be this high, it needs to be this width, and that is what you need. That is what you need to do. That is how strict they are.
this
No,
is the key to their success is having all
this is
these
the key.
things
Yeah, this is
very
the key to this.
meticulously planned.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
very, very meticulous. To the point of where they do the memorabilia, they will send a team. Now, the team will say, well, no, and this was information that I didn't know. To be a part of the memorabilia team, right, it is such a long and is a difficult process in the sense where you have to be able to know how to put a nail in a wall at the exact measurement. Because when you hang something there, it's going to drop a certain level. If you off by an inch, you're not going to get a job. That is how serious they are. You off by an inch. And I spoke to somebody that came that did the installation for us. And he was the one that was telling me that it was between him and one other person, and he beat the person by an inch. And that is how he got the job. So that is how serious Hard Rock is. That is how meticulous they are. Because at the end of the day, all these memorabilia that we will get, it does come from actual artists. It is real and it is expensive. So that 1 inch is the difference between that staying on the wall or that being on the floor, which is expensive. So that is how serious they are. It's all these things now you're working with a timeline. And every week you're on a call, every week you're on a construction call, every week you're on a follow up call for the kitchen. So it was just like it was stressful. And then now you have your owner coming down, your owner don't like this, you need to fix this, you need to make sure you get it. So it was a stressful experience, but coming down to the end when you could have actually seen the finish line, it was just like it was worth it.
I think I remember I was in Trinidad at this point when you had to be like dealing with all these things around your big day, which was your wedding.
Yeah.
So now you're planning a wedding, you opening a restaurant. Where's your scene, boy? Where's your real vibes? Now, I do remember getting the call last year or the year before, given tentative dates. It was supposedly supposed to be in August at first,
Yes.
August 2024, but which ended up being a couple days
This
before Christmas in December. And you now planning to open a restaurant in June,
Yeah.
correct, of this year.
Yes.
So tell us about that whole phase of period.
Felicia and I mean, it's been 8 years, 8 or 9 years, right? And we broke up before I went to Guyana. So that's when and then I got into a relationship, realized that wasn't working out, realized I was still in love with Felicia, and and then we got back there. So that's what I mean when I said I was in love, then out of love, then back in love again. And I usually point and I told her this. I was like, listen, if it is that we doing this, I do want to date. I do want to date. Let me just get married and done. Right? She wanted to date. I was like, I'm not going through that. Like, let me just get married. We know each other long enough. Let me just get married and done. And it's funny, sometimes you put things in the air. Years ago, about 5 years ago, Felicia and I had a conversation. This is before we were even, dating or anything like that. And we said, if by the point in time she reaches 30 or I reach 30 and we're single, we would just get married to each other. And
Long-term planners, but
yeah, and I mean, we miss it because if we had the wedding in August, she would have been 30 and we would have got married at 30. We had it in December, so she was 31. Anyways, it was, planning our wedding and, coming to terms with that within itself, that is not an easy thing, allowing yourself to decide to be solely available or solely connected to one person, that is a serious, serious decision that And a lot of people just think, oh, getting married is just to get married, and because you love this person. No, it's a serious decision that you're making to actually, be there for that person in day out. That this person is now your second half, and even within us coming back together and deciding to do that, those were the things that we needed to learn. We needed to learn as well to how to communicate better, how to not let these small things create big fires. How to out it as quick as possible. So we learned that through the period, and we did marriage counseling and all these things. Mind you, I'm still working in Guyana and everything like that, and all these new opportunities coming up. So is that, and then also having to now be a part of a team to open
Yeah,
a restaurant.
exactly.
Yeah, I could say honestly, I don't know how I did all of those things. I think that is just a part of the chaos of being a chef, because we tend to thrive in a lot of chaos, honestly. And if things not really that chaotic, we don't see the point in it. And so I had to learn that as well too, and be able to now split myself in three, because I still, I run in one restaurant, you're going to open the next one, and plus you're planning a wedding at the same time. That is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, because I remember even when I was in Trinidad, you would be getting calls from like your manager, and you had like specific time to really just come home, get married, and go back, because that was literally how it went down. So now you're in St. Kitts, and you're married now. The big day has come for the restaurant. Tell us about that period and that feeling, man.
While it was stressful, because at that point in time, so the Hard Rock team was saying, no, again, everything needs to be up to Hard Rock standards, right? I think, and that was right after Uncle Steve's funeral as well too. So that was the next thing that we had to deal with.
Yeah, it's been a very rough year, man. Let me just
It's,
say that.
it's, it's been a rough year. You're dealing with that, and then at the same time, you have to have, the balance with your married life as well too. And of course, unconventional, the marriage is long distance, so you still have to put in time. And then now you have this group of people that need their restaurant open on the 1st of June. Like I had reached to the point, like everybody was saying it, and I have a letter as well too from one of the trainers where it was like, regardless of the stress that I was under, I was still able to get things done, because I always used to be like, yeah, this coming tomorrow. Like everybody was directing things at me. It's like, here, I'm going on with this one. And it wasn't even my responsibility, to be quite honest. And it was just like, what going on with this? You need to get this, that, that. I was like, okay, we will get this tomorrow. This will come next week. This one I could get for you right now. So like I was very robotic at that point in time. And yeah, it was just being calm within the situation. So like I have learned that is something that has now been added to who I am, just knowing how to be calm.
It really makes sense now, the person that you've become because of all these situations. So what is that feeling like, being at the top of your career, being a husband, a new one welcoming in the world, being a father? What does all these things feel like for you now?
At some points, like when all these things happening, you feel like you're on top of the world. Like honestly, that is the feeling. Like I wouldn't say like you feel like you feel invincible or you're untouchable, but you just it's like you're on Mount Everest, right? And the air, as it might be thin, it's still breathable. It's an interesting situation to be at, because you're married now. You have a wife. You have responsibilities. You would still have your ups and downs. I mean, that's just a part of being married. But again, because of the past, you learn how to get through. How to get through things. And then now you have a restaurant that needs your attention, because it's new to everybody, it's new to the staff.
Literally a baby.
Yeah, so like I feel like I have 15 to 20 children, to be quite honest. Guys, I tell everybody all the time, you guys are my children. As young as I may be, but there's a certain level of responsibility that comes, with being at that level. Like I think like recently I had one of my chefs passed out on the line. He like passed out and fell back. So it's like at the end of the day, the concern is there now. I'm happy that these things, happen. I mean, she's okay, but it just shows how it would be like actually being a father, how it would be like actually having some or being responsible for somebody, which I know you understand as well too. And what comes with that, the sacrifice that you then have to make, because like I always I tell my chefs and them, I say, listen, if you're going through something, come and talk to me. Like if you'll need something, come talk to me. I mean, I may not have all the answers, but I will give you a solution. And that, I think, that is what parenthood is really about, because not all parents have the answer,
Of course.
but there's the possibility of giving a solution.
Yes.
you know and I mean, we wouldn't always have the answer. That is where we would have, be able to impart certain things to other people, because we would have seen it from mommy's side, we would have seen it from daddy's side. And a lot of people don't really understand how much things you take away from your parents. And I think, like, you don't notice it, but it's just instilled in you. And I think that is what it really means to have somebody underneath you, to have a child, to be able to pass on those things as well too. Because I mean, nobody knows, and I think a child at that point in time, they don't even realize when a parent is putting things into them and how much it benefits and impacts them.
It's beautiful, man. Like, can't wait to meet my little niece or nephew. Can't
Yeah,
wait to see what God gonna give you and equip you with all this ability to take care of these people, man. So before we go, I want to go through a couple of things before some this or that questions. You could just come up with some responses in terms of the culture, Trinidad, Guyana, or St. Kitts, culturally,
Guyana,
food,
Trinidad,
entertainment.
Guyana, and that's just because of the fact, actually, both Guyana and Trinidad, I haven't seen fully St. Kitts, because their carnival is in January. Um, I haven't seen their entertainment. I mean, the music fest was crazy the other day. I think
Cartel.
that kind of made history for them. But I personally have not been a part of any entertainment so far, so I don't want to knock St. Kitts out.
Yeah.
So I would, but Trinidad first, Guyana second, and then St. Kitts will be after.
People, friendliness, hospitality.
I mean, that's kind of biased, because I mean, when you reach home, you reach home. When you're home, you're home. But I wouldn't include Trinidad in this.
Okay.
Hospitality, Guyana,
Luxury,
St. Kitts.
beaches.
St. Kitts. St. Kitts water is very calm. You don't really have waves. You could actually just go and relax.
Okay, woman.
Woman, I will carry it as, and this is just being generic. I want my wife to understand this is a very generic response. I would go Trinidad, Guyana, St. Kitts. Trinidad have some really, really beautiful women. Honestly, we do, as a culture, we do.
Looking
Some
at
some of
you,
some of the best.
the best.
Guyana have beautiful women, but they just don't reach the level of Trinidadian women, because they have more of the mixture of the armor. Not saying,
Yes, of course.
right, but is the mixture of the genes that give them set them apart a little bit, but they do have a lot of beautiful women. St. Kitts.
Okay.
St. Kitts, I haven't seen it so much, and I guess that's just because of the side that I am on. But I am more on the foreigner side. But you know, every Caribbean country has its own
It's very
perspective
good.
of beautiful women.
Okay, so Aaron, as we come into an end, like first of all, I feel like your story is one of resilience and inspiration, and one that there's never giving up. Giving up is not part of
Nah,
the plan. So there's someone in Trinidad or in the Caribbean who probably wants to reach to your place one day in the kitchen. They probably want to be able to travel and be able to achieve this level in your career and hopefully as a person when they hear your story. So, what words of inspiration could you give to anyone who is trying to get into your industry, who wants to reach to this level? What kind of advice you could give these people?
I would say just keep at it. One, be true to yourself. Two, and three, grind as hard as possible. Because with the grind, you never notice how much people actually take notice of the work that you put out, right? But just stay true to yourself, continue grinding. Know that it is not an easy industry. You make a lot of sacrifices, birthdays, holidays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, depending on who you're working for. But just stay true to yourself and just continue grinding. The world is big and there's so much things that you could do outside of your regular school.
Yeah, perfect. And there's some really nice words of wisdom to leave. So, Aaron, drop a gem for somebody. Drop a gem for the people who watching this. What are your final thoughts, statements? What you want to leave us with, bro?
What I want to leave you guys with is never let an opportunity pass you by. Because one, you could never tell if the train starts at A, don't let it stop at A. You could very well reach B, C. Just don't sell yourself short. Be true to yourself, and I think that is the way to go in terms of being successful.
Guys, you heard it for yourself from the executive chef of the Hard Rock. You've heard his story and you've heard the challenges, the triumphs, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows. So Aaron, I really want to thank you for your time. I mean, I know it's still morning by you, it's nighttime here.
Yeah.
But I want to let you know publicly that I am giving you your flowers, and I hope you know that not only I am proud of you, but the family proud of you, and we just keep looking forward to seeing you do some bigger things than you're already doing. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the Village Voices podcast. Again, we are just using this to showcase the lives and stories of the people who live abroad, who come from where we come from, who look like what we look like, and who are able to do make some wonderful achievements. So, Aaron, thank you very much for joining me today. And, I'm really looking forward to the impact that you could make with this one. Everyone else at the Village Voices, it's your host, DJ. Thank you for tuning in to another informative, inspirational episode. And we do hope you would like, subscribe, share, anything that resonates. You can reach out to us. We can give you so much more advice as to, how you could move abroad, how you could live abroad, what you could do when you go abroad, live abroad, and, how you go through the ups and the downs. So, signing out, it's your boy, DJ. Bless.
Who you gonna teach if you can teach yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna reach if you can reach yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna see if you can see yourself? Reflections. Who you gonna be if you can be yourself?